Welcome back on the bus, ladies and gentlemen. You're sitting here with your bus driver and your bus owner, that's me. And today we have the lovely pleasure of being in Williamsburg, New York. Now, why are we here? We've got a whole bunch of shows set up that we're doing directly in order, 8 of them. It's like we're back on the bus in South America, pummeling a few shows into one city at a time. And what do we have coming up? We have some sick, incredible shows, including Zero Carb. That means eating all meat. We've got Mir K. We've got Tayo Roxon from the As Told by Nomads. We've got a Broadway actress. And last but not least, Brandon Steiner from Steiner Sports, New York City sports mogul legend. So once again, thank you for joining our show. Now, if you're new here, we've sent all of our ads to the end so that we can give you a clean show and get you started right away. If you want to support us, skip on to the end and you'll be able to find our sponsors and the best ways to support us. However, before you do that, if you haven't left a review, if you're not subscribed, click that button because that is going to help us the most.
You're already listening to it. You're tuned in right now. Just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Huge appreciation, huge thank you for you guys doing that. And since we don't do all those other things anymore, let's get into the episode.
Yeah, well, tell them a little bit about what it's going to be about, you know?
So since Daniel and I have got back to the U.S., and there's been a bit of a, not hardship, but a tough time acclimating back into society and culture. And this isn't, exclusive to nomads. It's anybody who takes a big break and a big dip out of society, out of the job culture, out of the job work and flow of, how these civilizations and cultures work today.
Even when you go on vacation, yeah.
It's tough to get back into the mix and delve and dive back in. So today we're going to talk about what it's like coming back to a new place or even back home and what that entails, fixing things, prioritizing, pivoting, getting back into new flows, habits, traditions, cultures, and when you're returning home, as well as the journey itself and what it takes to go out into a new place, routines, social pressures, and how this all entails with the journey itself. So we're going to bring this one full circle. We're going to start from the beginning, bring it back to the end. So here we go, episode number 77.
Welcome on the bus.
Okay.
Well, here we are. Well, I'm not sure. We just did the intros right there, but it's as if it was different, right? So in today's episode, we're going to start by talking about what it's like to go into a new place, like what we do when we're traveling, finding a new city, what kind of research we do. Brandon, what kind of research do you do before you go to a city? Like what kind of stories you look for?
There's actually one website I found. I found it not only until we went to South America. It's called Atlas Obscura. And it's just able to tell me the most obscure things that I'm going to find on the map by country.
I know, that's fantastic.
Remember that one. And it's, it's a user-based app, just like iOverlander is. So it's going to tell you, very exotic, hard to get to, hard to reach locations with GPS coordinates, how to get there, when to get there, what's going on during it. There's going to be some ones you maybe have heard of on there, but I've also discovered some many hidden gems, whether it's, for our next trip in India, some hidden temples with 30-foot jumps into water pools inside. It just looks insane. It looks incredible. I'm getting excited and passionate just talking about it. So Atlas Obscura is one of those ones I really like, that I'm able to find some really unique and niche things about a place I'm visiting.
Is that the same one where you can type in, like, you can go on Google and you could say strangest things in the city of La Paz, Bolivia?
I don't know if they'll have one that's going to be just strange. It's going to be in the name, obscure. So whatever you can find that's obscure in a place, someone's going to share it on there. And you're going to find your community of interesting, not just locations to go visit or things to do. It's going to really, really hit you with a multitude of attributes to find out about a new city or country you're visiting.
Yeah, I know. For me, I like to look up not only strange things, but I want to go into maybe an app like Foursquare and research what is popular from, let's say, the food or let's say some interesting event that's going on. And I don't actually want to go do that. I try to find out what trend is going on there. Maybe there's a ton of some strange, fruit that no one's talking about. And then I'll type that in on Google and I'll research it. And, when you were talking about iOverlander, there's an app called maps.me, which allows you to download offline maps for any location in the world. It's by far the best for overlanders.
Which one was that? Google or was that another one?
For maps.me?
Maps.me, okay.
Maps.me.
You mentioned that one in South America, yeah.
That's the one that we had about 3/4 of the way through the trip. I said, Google Maps has taken us off the highway at least 50 times. I mean, horrible routes. I'm talking like 8 hours in the wrong direction.
But if you are in a city abroad, please go ahead and download your offline maps. If you don't have, any data service, it's a treat to have it, to know where a restaurant is if you are in some weird part of town. Because it's not even about getting lost. It's about getting lost, but finding that 4.9 reviewed thing, if that's your thing, or, finding, that area you're looking for. Because at the end, there's a little bit of safety and security that comes down to you not knowing where you are and knowing where you want to be at the same time, because I will get lost just like any of you. And I'm just a stubborn not using directions and getting to where I want to go the way I want to get there.
Yeah.
No stopping me.
I mean, it was a treat for us to use maps.me because it allowed us to download something offline and get lost in a crazy place and then also know how to get out. So, we want to create these adventures and experiences that are rogue and off the map. And it's great to have a technology that allows you to do that and then not be lost for 3 days in the Bolivian wilderness and wondering why don't I have any food and am I going to survive into tomorrow?
I mean, I didn't drive on a road for a few days out there. We really didn't drive on roads. The roads were better, I thought. It was just the last part where we got stuck was just the one part that was just a little too sandy.
They were better than the thing is that Colombia had the worst roads.
And Ecuador.
Peru.
Ecuador is the sleeper of the whole trip.
Ecuador is the sleeper
Best
of
roads.
our trip. So when you're traveling, it's great to do your research beforehand, but I think that you want to do a different type of research, right? And something that we do and something that Brandon does extremely well. Well, I'll come back into that. Is the last thing I wanted to mention before you go down there is language, right? A lot of people some people, they're too dramatic. Oh, I got to learn French before I go into France, or I got to learn Spanish. No, the best thing is you learn some of the key phrases and words that help you get along, that help you say hello and connect with the people. And then beyond that, do like Brandon does. You use your hands, A
little bit of sign language, pointing, referencing, gesturing. If you want something, you can get it. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what you know or what you don't know. There's always a plan C, everybody. There's a third option. There's a fourth option. But like Daniel said, it's a sign of respect. It's a sign, you're going to someone's country. You're going to visit their place. When you can find a way to connect with people, because language is developed through culture. Language is developed through religion. There's history. There's roots that come with it. Sometimes you're not going to fully understand. I mean, we have a better grasp of, romantic language and, I forgot what the English language is based out of. The one connected with German, right? The root. But anyways.
Germanic.
I think it's based out of Germanic language. So, we have a much more connection culturally with these languages. But if you want to learn, Arabic, you want to learn, an Asian language, it's just, you can appreciate it. You can try and connect and understand. And it's just going to make you have greater connections when you go visit these places. And to see the smile on someone's face, as someone else would say, like, oh, you're a white person going over there. But the fact that you are a white person, wherever color skin you are, and you're going to someone's country and you know enough about them to learn about them, they are so appreciative. And you just made a better friendship and connection with somebody that you maybe would have never made if you stayed at home, first of all.
Yeah. And also, here's one of my biggest suggestions is find a fixer. Find somebody that is going to be where you're going to be.
That's what that one
that
was.
Can help you. And what I mean by fixer we're in a technological world where you have access to all people all around the world through internet forums, through apps, and all these different means of connection and communication. So you can hop onto Reddit and find somebody who lives in a city. Whatever it is that you're looking for, you can find someone that will take you around, that's a local, that's really knowledgeable, and you're going to have a much, much more in-depth, deeper, heartfelt experience. And I like that so much more than a tour, because a tour, they're there to make money off you. They have time guidance, And, you're going to get some great people that way, and that's what their job is. But for me, I want to find someone who's never really done that, who's excited to share this experience, and then they can learn from you as well. And so how I do that, we go on Reddit. I know for our production, what we have done in the past was on the ground and grassroots, and we'll come back to that shortly. That's Brandon's specialty. But you can also hop on Foursquare and look for companies that specialize in what you're looking for. You can do that through Overland apps. So there's iOverlander, and on iOverlander, you'll be able to pop in and find people who have bed and breakfast and places where you can stay along the route. And those are great people to connect with ahead of time and ask them for advice on places to go, where to see, because you're not going to get any better advice than someone who's a local who understands the place. It's going to be better than what your research tells you about the top 10 things that go in a city. Get a fixer and say, yeah, we're interested in this we're interested in hearing the story of the people at home, the culture. Give us one. Here's a great question that Brandon always asks. He says, tell me one thing about, well, he does this when he gets there, but tell me one thing about your city. Tell me one story that no one is talking about that you think people should be talking about. When you ask that question, it really gets some unique proposition that's worth your time, whether it's a place or a person to connect with or a meal. You're going to find something awesome that way. And, on sort of along those lines, the next thing that it's going to be really important when you do this is pivoting while you travel. Like, you have to pivot. You're going to get on the ground. Like, Brandon, tell me how you go through talking to people. What's your favorite thing to damn do?
I mean, it's when I get to a place, you said it best. How can I get in touch with what's going on in a city, in a place, and how can I get that from, the personal perspective? Because what I've learned so much from this podcast experience and storytelling is, everybody's got a story to tell, and, everybody's perspective is different. I see perspective as taste. So, if somebody asks me, what kind of food do you like? What do you like to do? Like, I want good food. What do you like that's good? And so my whole, spectrum of how I see the world, how I taste food, and how I like things just seems to be grabs of everybody else's. So, my perception of the world is everybody else's perception of the world. And I get to take in how everybody else sees it. So I try and build off that. And that's how I get to have an understanding of how the world works and why it works the way it does. Because I can't take only mine in. If I can take that in from the individual by having a conversation with them, then I think I can, not understand it all, but I have a better understanding of why, someone does something the way they do in a place I'm going to visit. Why does, like, we're in Santa Veronica, Colombia, our bus papers, we didn't have the proper papers yet. And Blum, R.I.P. Isaac, and Patrick head over into Barranquilla, and I stayed back with the bus. I was sleeping on this bus with no AC. It was
brutal.
destroyed.
Like, the sun is pounding down. The beach is so close, but you're not allowed to go on the beach. You're in the water. Destroyed
by mosquitoes. And, I was stuck outside of a restaurant with another gentleman, Josh Chandler, actually from Davie, Florida.
That was good food, though.
And it wasn't a bad place to be stuck.
Yeah.
That's the quote from the trip. From Austin to there, not a bad place to be stuck. And I got to sit down with the gentleman who owned the restaurant, and barely spoke good enough Spanish to go back and forth with him. He spoke no English, but we were able to sit there and just bond over plátanos maduros fritos every single night. He'd make me a big, massive plate. He taught me how to ride his motorcycle up and down the street and have some beers with him, watch some soccer. We'd say, "Junior's tu papa," which is the slogan for the Barranquilla football team. And, you get to reflect on a moment and just be okay with wherever you are and whatever you're going to do. And, I think that's how people have a hard time doing, even when they get to go travel now. Just like, hey, you're away from that part of the world and where you are because you get to be where this place is now. And you got to try and entrench yourself as deep away in what you're doing and away from who you were in another place.
Yeah, when you're traveling, for me, I love learning about culture. And what better way to do that than to see it from someone else's eyes? And you're describing a great way of approaching somebody. It's letting them take you on the world through their eyes by asking them simple questions and discovering who they are and what they're interested in. And that allows you to sort of experience whatever journey that you just went on and the place that you went there. Because why do we travel? Do we travel to just look? I mean, some people might travel to just look at the land and want nothing to do with the people. But if you really want that first-hand experience of what it's like to grow up, to live there, to be there, to live that life, whatever that life is, doing it the way that you just described has been like amazing to watch. And then I've learned so much from it. And I know everybody who gets to like come with us gets to experience that too, which is the coolest thing. And so that's why also when we're doing what we're doing for any of you out there who, when you travel, if you're okay to pivot in the middle of whatever it is you're doing. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're out and you're on a 3-hour journey outside of whatever city you went to. Let's say you go into the mountains from Chile, and while you're there, you go into some small little restaurant and you start talking with the patron, and and you start having a conversation with them. You strike it up and you say, hey, by the way, do you know what? Do you know anything really cool around here that we must see? Maybe you had plans to leave there at night, but giving yourself the freedom for this person to tell you like some unknown geyser that's, spewing out volcano ash that no one's ever heard about. Like, you can get that one-of-a-kind experience if you leave yourself open to having those conversations with people and just, being free.
Well, it plays to the greater topic that we're trying to get into, is pivoting. And, this goes for anybody. It goes for anybody who's just merely getting some leisure travel in. It's for anybody who, is off doing a video shoot and needs to produce something, create something. I highly suggest, having a framework. I've traveled by myself, haven't traveled with family in a long time.
What do you mean by a framework?
A framework. And I think we do this, I take this in all of my works of life now. It's like a very wide car lane. And we want to stay, you don't have to stay in between the lines, but and that could be your schedule when you travel. When you take your schedule when you travel, you say, okay, I want to kind of hit this place. I'm trying to get here. I'm trying to get there. But you want to leave it open to do the things you want to do, because you may color outside the line sometimes. You may take that car off road sometimes. I don't mean that in a dangerous way. I mean that very figuratively. That your plans can always change, but if you still have a structure about, I want to make sure I see this thing. I wanted to hit that museum. I wanted to do X, Y, and Z activity. I want to make sure I tried that food. And as long as you're not keeping it rigid by time and how you want to do it, where you want to go, what you want to do, who you want to be, you're able to explore and see that much more of a place, because you have that window of opportunity to jump out and do something that maybe wasn't on the list, while still hitting those things that are close to home for you that you wanted to experience along the way. And then in terms of, the way we just did this trip with, podcasting and production, I mean, you find a cool story, you want to go tell this story, and you want to go do a podcast with these people, and that podcast ends up going into their house, and they're taking us to one of the finest letting us try one of the finest seafoods in one of the cities we visited. And now we're sitting there, we're chatting, we're talking, it turns into beers, it turns into a night out. We had none of this planned. We were not able to see all this stuff foreseeable in the future, but we were able to grasp and grow and take on an experience we could have never planned. And, for a lot of people, those things are, getting to experience the things you never thought would ever possibly imagine or happen. Air is life, and air is, the finer things that, people end up talking about the most.
Let me ask you something. What are your favorite two questions when you meet somebody you weren't expecting to meet, so a local of some kind? Like, what are your favorite two questions to sort of get to the heart of who they are? What are the first two questions you ask?
It depends on the place. My favorite question to ask somebody when I go to a place, I try and tailor it to the culture, what they're about, because I'm a big history buff, and I'll ask them, some kind of some interesting, I want an opinion on an interesting take and idea about what's happening or going on, or, to a gentleman, what goes in to a good Plátano Maduro frito if we're in Colombia? What is it about that makes it so good? And I want to know what you want to put inside of it. I want to know if there's something else, if there's some kind of charisma, if there's some kind of attitude. And, if there's something, politically driven, or if there's something historically driven. I want to know what, if, you only hear about, maybe from the United States or in Europe about what someone thinks about all these crazy events that happens and goes on. But when you're there, I was in Jerusalem. I was walking around like an idiot, of course, with a Hamas headscarf. I didn't know it was a Hamas headscarf. And I'm in the Arab Quarter, and I started chatting with the gentleman, and I wanted to know what it was like to be Palestinian. I wanted to know what he thought about, the Israeli occupation, and, what does he think about it? What does he want to do about it? Does he think there's a chance for peace? And, he invited me into his shop. We had some tea. He didn't even tell me I'm wearing this dumb scarf over my head. I look like a goddamn idiot. But, I can only take in so much. You can only do so much, but I want to understand the world. I want to try and understand what it is, who this person is, how they feel about a certain situation that's already the most crazy and complex thing. So, ask people questions. Don't be afraid about asking a question that's offending people. It's not your prerogative to be worried about a question offending somebody. It's about finding out what their answers are.
For me, it's always asking something simple that's going to lead to a little bit more, right? Like you know me, I love to talk about food, and one of the types of questions I like to ask is, who taught you this? Who taught you that? Because that evokes a visceral response from them that tells them about their childhood and their mentors and the people that worked with them, and it softens them up, and it sits them back and gets them into their memories and gets them flowing into who they are. And then you ask 2 or 3 of those and get a little deeper, after they tell you, oh, it's my mother. She used to cook this for me. She used to cook this for me in a hot pot as a child. And then you can ask something like, tell me a little bit more about your mother. How, what did she mean to you, to the family? You could go from there. You can say, oh, that's fantastic. Is that something that's your overall culture is doing? Is this a style that everyone's cooking, or is it just you? And now they're going to start sharing you cultural information. So it's like, it's really simple questions. And if you you feign interest in people and their culture and their history, they tend to really open up with you. All of a sudden they want to bring you inside and sit down for a beer and ask you, and share with you. And that's the kind of experience that it's great to have with people, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, we've done the journey. We've seen these places. We've taken in so much of these new surroundings, these new experiences, but it's time to go home. And this could have been a 2-week trip. It could have been a weekend trip. It could have been 8 months, 10 months, 12 months to a year. Some people take an entire year off. And now you got to come back to where you are. And, for us, that was the United States. And, reacclimating is not as easy as it sounds, because you're coming off a trip. You are excited, guns blazing. You are ready to get back to the real world. You're ready to take it on. Bull by the horns. Nothing's going to stop you. And now you got to jump into a whole new system and whole new flow that, doesn't really work for you. And then all the culture that you missed out on, the trends, the fashion, the do's, the don'ts, politics, society, you're playing catch up now. You can only listen to the news so much, and when you get here, then, from things you could say that could hurt somebody to, understanding why this happens, or what goes on, or opinion you have, or a take you have on something. And it's, you never thought, being from some place, that you would experience culture shock, but I know I definitely have it. I mean, where did you experience any of that?
Culture shock is a real thing. You get culture shock when you go to a new place, but then the culture shock when you return home is its own animal. You've been transplanted from a viewpoint of the world, from a way of existence, and now all of a sudden you're into a new one. And it's this one that you used to know. It's this feeling of nostalgia, but then it's also this strange, bizarre feeling of, this isn't what life was just like for me. I don't really understand these people and who they are, and I have to use a different lens of an outsider trying to fit themselves back in. And for me, right when we got off the plane, like the most brutal culture shock for me was when we came back from Latin America for 10 months. And I stepped off the plane, and all of a sudden, everyone in America is big boned and beefy and
big bone for sure,
aggressive in conversation. And I'm like, why is everyone so big boned here? Like, what's going on? And then I have, police officers pulling me aside with my bags, like, questioning me as if I don't belong in America. And I'm like, the first thought that goes in my head is I'm American. Like, why are you questioning me? I'm American. And the second thought is like, am I American? Am I American anymore? Am I a person of the world because of what I've experienced? So culture shock can be just disassociative. And for me, it's always fascinating. And this is a question. This is something I love to talk to people about. Is I like to liken going home as if it's the first 5-6 days on a new trip. Because when you go on a new trip, it's extremely enjoyable. You have tons of new stimuli and culture and all these things that we're going over. But when you go home, it's the same experience. All of a sudden, you've gone into an old culture. Everything that you do is like wavy and unknown. The way you converse with people, the way you get on transportation, the way that you are supposed to have a routine and eat, it's all different. So it's like this period of newness, and the period of newness is something that always sticks with you. So
you have to stay in that new. We'll use the word newness.
Newness.
You got to be open because you can't have any expectations on what you're coming back to and what you're going to experience when you get here. I mean, the same thing goes to the trip. There's a very, 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 just making this point right now in my own head, you got to be open to the return home. You got to be open when you even go on the trip. You can never assume whatever life is going to throw at you. And I think even when I moved right up here to New York, I moved up to New York on the airplane, and in between the airport and getting on a train to from the subway to the city, my camera gets stolen. And I just can't help but see myself. It's like, okay, I'm coming back home. It's going to be a nice little sedentary complacency. I'm so excited.
Finally, I get to relax a little bit. Oh,
and then I can't help but see I'm like the character in The Alchemist, I was like, wasn't going on a journey. I was coming back home. And when he gets to the new land after he goes from Spain to Africa and he gets pickpocketed and all his money gets stolen and he starts his journey and he's on a brand new place, but now he's stuck where he is and he can't go to the next place he wants to go. And because he thinks, I got to get somewhere by a certain time. I got to accomplish this thing by a certain date. If I don't go out there and find the Sorcerer's Stone and this book and The Alchemist, then I'm never going to be the person I'm going to be. So he gets stuck in this place, and now it's on him. But he stays there for a year or 2 years. I remember the book, I don't recall. And he joins this guy. He helps work in his shop. But again, it's all about what I'm learning in this process as I've been here or just been back in the U.S. It's, finding joy in every single moment. And when you find that joy in the moment, you're going to find whatever success or whatever splendor you want to have in life. But you have to be able to find joy in every single moment. You have to be able to enjoy the process, whatever part of the process you're on. And I can't push that to everybody enough, because you start putting pressures, all the pressures you feel on yourself, you pass those on to other people. And that's not fair to other people around you. And you know who you are. You got to know what it is you want to do and how you're going to get to that next place. And no matter where that place is going to be, wherever you are is the place you're supposed to be. And you got to find joy in it. You got to find splendor in it. How's your journey been back? Because that's a little bit about mine right there.
It's the same. It's like this. It's navigating of the self. The self is different than where it was, and now I'm being put back into an old version of the self. And it's, how do I mash these two versions of the self together? And then how do I reacclimate with family? How do I rebuild relationships that have dissipated over? That happens a lot when you're longer and not short-term travel. And how do I rebuild into the life of a home in America and the things that come along with it? And it's weird and bizarre. It's bizarre because I feel like I'm a person of the globe and not a person of America. But obviously, when you go to a place and you say, settle in, this is my cave that I'm going to be building out for the next few X period of time. And
it's
and
just
I
a
have
cave
to,
in the end.
Yeah,
You're just decorating a little cave.
You got to decorate
box.
your cave.
You got to decorate
of course,
your cave.
I have this theory that the reason that we're so does anyone ever talk about why we're so interested in homes? And I think it's due to that we used to be cave dwellers. And as cave dwellers, our existence was in this sort of sheltered area on the cliffside where we would come together in groups and we would protect this cave from the outside. And now, here we are 100 years later. No one finds it bizarre that we live in these shacks that cover us and protect us from the outside world and from other people, and you have to go bang if you want to be let in, and you decorate them and you make them look good, and it's like a virtue signaling and social signaling. And
what's crazy is the walls we put up around communities.
Yeah, a mating signal, and then to further that, you've got walls around communities. So I really think that our homes are just a leftover evolutionary tendency of our cave dwelling days, and now we've compartmentalized it into a home. Why don't I have, first, why is it always this shape? I don't know. Why don't I have like a thimble triangle? Homes are bizarre to me, I guess, our bodies are no longer meant to live outside, and that could also stem from our cave dwelling days. And so it's just a bizarre thing. So outside of that tangent, you come back to your cave, you come back to your home, and you want to get yourself back into business, and it's not permanent. It's short term. Some people want to claim that it's permanent, but eventually they're going to look for a new home, or they're going to start a family or whatnot. And so, but once you do that, what's the next step? Well, you got to find a job. Have to completely rebuild myself into society, because if you don't fit into society, then you don't fit at all, and everyone's going to look at you like you're strange. We are social creatures, and you do want to fit in because you feel better when you fit in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you've come home and you are an incredible person at finding like little trinkets and apps and jobs for people to do. And I know you're using an app called TaskRabbit. Tell the people about it.
So it's
and how did you get into it, by the way?
Our former guest, Jared Firestone, has just suggested it, sent it over to me. And it's a app that you put out, you're freelancing or you're self-employed, and you put out different ads through the app. You pay a one-time $20 charge, and there are about 40 different kinds of jobs you can take on, from being a photographer to yard work to gardening to cooking. So you can literally set your rate. You kind of want to set it based on what's happening and what's going on with everybody else, because it's a competition, and you don't want to make your prices too high, or you won't get picked up, or you don't want to make them too low, or you're going to be working your ass off for a rate, especially if you're living up here in New York City. So I've found, and I've been able to connect with so many incredible people and find so many amazing opportunities, from getting to work on my photography and doing photo shoots. It's been a great learning experience. And then it's also given me access to get to places, to see things. I did a task on there, just simply helping a woman who's a distributor for a shampoo company help move a few of her products from one place to another. And it turned into helping her build and design an entire floral production in a wedding in Nantucket. Never been to Nantucket, but I got to do this all expenses paid weekend trip with great pay, getting to do my photography as well, and getting to experience all these things. And I was like, oh man, you just keep connecting. You just keep yourself busy. You're going to find a way to get in the world. But, are you happy with that? That's what you got to ask yourself in the end. And how do you continue to work on your dream jobs and your dream projects and balance all those things? It's the entrepreneur life or startup life. It's a lonely life. It's a constant hustle. You got to take care of yourself. You got to hopefully work, with other individuals you're building a project with. But if you don't have those individuals there, that's where being social creatures is. I think it's really tough to connect with others, or, even to relate about what's happening, what's going on in your life.
For nomads, so let's think tangible here. For nomads, it's a great app, TaskRabbit. Maybe they only have a part-time remote job and they want to make more money. Do you know what cities is available in, or what exact potential jobs that you could just quickly list what people might be able to find on it?
I mean, everything. I mean, you have electric screwdriver. People in New York, Either they don't want to do the labor or they don't want to do the
So
job.
it's the rapee for New York.
Yeah.
The different version. It's the rapee from the client side.
Tell the people Rapee is.
All right. So I am looking for someone to tomorrow night at 1 a.m. come stand on my shoulders and look at the moon. Is that person available?
You could phrase that on there. You could say it's something else and then hire somebody out to do those things. So it really all depends. You can't really go that in depth. It's more of, just handyman type things, or, I've even been on there to hired as a copywriter and editor, writing people's biographies for their websites. I've done that before. I've done review listings. It's interesting, and I've been able to take a lot of these skills and use them in other places. It's hard being a generalist and finding a place in, but if you are a generalist, I'd also say New York is a unique place to be on TaskRabbit because it's
there's tons of people. There's tons of, they have money. They're looking for
money,
stuff to do. Yeah.
payment, people trying to save time and optimize.
I mean, if you're new to this kind of thing, if let's say it's your first time traveling, or more experienced travelers are going to understand, finding a coffee shop is the answer to everything. You can just literally find a coffee shop, get free Wi-Fi, post up a place to work. And also in coffee shops, you can sort of like look at who else is doing that and go, yeah, these are probably, a lot of them are nomads or remote workers of some kind, and they're good people to chat up.
Yeah, but that's really where everything's moving towards. I mean, everybody not working in an office 5 days a week anymore. I mean, you've seen this in Williamsburg and Brooklyn.
That's why it's important we share information for people who are, there's going to be experienced people who are new, people who don't really know how to go about this. They've seen it. The millennials and the Gen Z, they like this stuff. Like, what do I got to do to get started? I wish someone would have had more condensed information for me back in the day.
It's going to be moving more and more to that. Williamsburg or Brooklyn itself, it's a very common thing to see. But, for a job like finance, I don't think that'll ever really gain any acceptance. You're going to have to be in there doing shit all the time, every day.
Really? You think that? What about, trading? You can trade from anywhere.
You can trade from anywhere, but if you're trading for yourself.
Well, why can't you have remote clients? Finance
is just a different beast. There's just too much demand on keeping people in the office and working on trading in the office or building out plans and designs it. So
I'm not familiar with the finance world, so
they
at least
work
the elite level.
Insane hours.
I know that.
Yeah, especially as an analyst. I mean, you got to be in there. You got to be looking at the computer screen. And I mean, it's almost like, that poker.
It's like being a poker player.
Yeah. I know plenty of analysts, who have, those 3-4 screens mounted up in their living rooms. So they try and can be at home, but, that's on the individual and your routine. Do you want to bring your work home with you? And do you want to work from, is your home your temple? Is your home your cave or den? And do you want to do that? That goes into, routine, which I think is, in that startup entrepreneurship life, it's really hard to do. It's hard to integrate that in with someone else's life, whether it's a relationship, a partner, or, your friends that are going to understand like, hey, what, you're working until 2 a.m. on something? Well, yeah. Oh, wait, you haven't slept yet? No, I haven't slept yet. I'm just keeping it going. So whether you are a nomad, you're an entrepreneur, your clock, your routine, your timing really gets thrown off and fucked up. And doing that after traveling for so long makes it even harder to integrate in. It makes it harder to integrate in socially, like we just mentioned.
There's a lot of social pressure from the other side too, which makes it even harder. Your family wants to hang out with you. Your family wants to chat with you. Mom wants to call. Every time you're about to do something, it's mom calls right then at the worst time. Classic mom syndrome.
Classic mom syndrome. Always calling.
And, as an entrepreneur, I always have found that frustrating because, I'm always trying to get things done. And I hate using the phrase busy, but it's always a part of my vocab because I'm always trying to accomplish something. And it's weird, when you come home, now you've got additional social pressure, friends who haven't seen you. You've got bachelor parties and weddings and families' birthdays and everything. And that additional social pressure can really hinder growth that you're working on. But then not having it is also hindering it, right? You've just been away from your family for 10 months. Don't you want to see them? Don't you want to shower them with love because they've showered you with love your entire life? So there's this tedious fine line that is always difficult to figure out how to cross. And I wish there was enough time in the day to do both. I wish there was a place for me to be in 2 places at the same time. And that leaves up the paradox, the conundrum that we have. Because the more technology we get that makes it easier for us, like I can Skype and FaceTime my family from anywhere that I go. And the more time we get to do that, the more time we actually use that technology to just use free time to become more ambitious, right? Now it's like we're multitasking 4 things at once instead of, oh, well, this should make our lives easier.
Well, how do you balance that? Because the balance is just never going to, you're just never going to have it unless you say, I only, go back to the old school work ethic. Well, I only work from 9 to 5. And if I didn't get my shit done then I didn't get my shit done. So there's a whole new era and level of discipline, because you have to have self-discipline, working for yourself and working on your own to go out and accomplish those things while dealing with those, those pulls that are going to keep you away from getting done what you need to get done. A Facebook check in the middle of the workday. But at the same time, the more and more I've traveled, the more I thought, no, I'm not going to miss my family. I love being away and seeing all these things. Seeing my niece and nephew on an Instagram story or a Facebook thing, it just, you miss them. It warms your heart. Like, I want to be spending so much time with them because of how special the moments are when I am with them and what I get to do when I do get to see them. It's
like, is that why Instagram's there? Since I couldn't be home and spend those moments with them, I at least get the moments with them intimately on Instagram, even though I'm not connecting with them in real life.
It's a great takeaway.
Yeah. It is a good takeaway.
How are we? We're about 42 minutes.
I have a few things that I just want to quickly shout out to help to like speed this episode
up. So let's
up.
end this thing up with like
quick bits of advice.
5 recommendations, advice kind of thing.
Here's one for me. When you're getting on a plane, for me, when I get on a plane, one of the things that I always do is I know how hard jet lag can be. So I figure out the time zone of the place where I'm going, 3 hours ahead or 3 hours behind, and I make myself stay up to match the day before. I stay up to match whatever that time zone is going to be. So if I'm going East Coast to West Coast, I'll stay up till I'll stay up till 1 a.m. before so that I can acclimate to West Coast time. And then when I get to the West Coast, I do not sleep on that plane for that extra sleep. You push yourself through that first day. Give yourself extra coffee. You got to fight it. Do push-ups on the plane. Whatever you got to do. I do push-ups and stretch in the back. Because once you fight through that first day and make it to the normal sleep time, 11 p.m., whatever it is, then the rest of your trip is easy. You're not jet lagged. You're good.
That's a big one. Triple H, the wrestler, he really talks about that one. And even to add on to that one, it's like hitting the gym or working out as soon as you get to a place as well. So you stayed up, you've acclimated yourself to the time zone you're there. What better way to fight the jet lag, the complacency? What's it when you sit around and you get stuck and your body atrophy that you might have got from the airplane? Just go straight in. And again, it could be running a half mile or a mile on the treadmill, doing some movement, getting some stretching in. There's nothing better for not just for yourself, but for your body. Remember, this is not just you, it's your body. Take care of it. Get that exercising in, because I know that's one thing that we kind of slacked off with in South America, even myself personally. And, you got to remember, this is not just a vacation. This is a lifestyle, and this is how you want to live. You got to respect yourself and respect who you are. You don't change because you went away for a day or a week or a year. You are you, and make sure you always reflect on who you are.
So I have 3 apps that I'm going to shout out super quick. All right. The first is Shazam. Shazam, when you travel, you're going to hear some song from some person in some Uber that is going to be, or at a music event or whatever, that is going to be incredible, that you're going to wish that you
revolutionary.
It's going to change your, obviously we all use Shazam, but don't forget to use it when you're traveling. The next is Primed Mind. I'm going to shout out Primed Mind. Previous guest, Elliot Rowe, worked on this with a poker player, one of the best in the world. His name is Fedor Holtz, and it's an app. It is, instead of a meditation app, it is a hypnotherapy app. And it will give you some journey into your own psyche that you didn't realize you're going to be twisted in the dark halls of self. And then 15 minutes, you're going to wake up and wonder, what the hell just happened to me? And it's a great to use on the go, 15 minutes, get a quick meditation in while you're traveling.
Even a break from your day.
Break from your day, everything.
Like Daniel said, you really get drifted away in the counting. I mean, we'll start counting down from 300 in some of the meditations, and out of nowhere, I'm blacked out. And all of a sudden I come to at the end when there's these words Elliot says, all right, 3, 2, 1. Here we go, ready to accomplish the day and take it on. I'm like, Did I nap?
What just happened to me?
Did I fall
alive?
asleep?
Was I in the infinite eighth dimension of self-traveling space and time?
It's truly remarkable, and I think if you do it on a consistent basis, you really will be able to awaken and tap into, your own hidden gems and values that lay within inside you. To whether it's being a better person, to get more accomplished, and get things done the way you want to get them done. So check out Prime Mind by Elliot Rowe.
And lastly, when you're seeking out some things to do, I love Foursquare in foreign countries. I think it's the best.
You're a big proponent. You're a Foursquare over Yelp all day.
Way over Yelp. And I'm not necessarily using I'm not necessarily using the ratings, but definitely probably more so than Foursquare when I'm looking for food is I'll Google the city and I'll type in, let's say, I'll find out what they're specifically known for in whatever the city is, and I'll type in the best of that kind. And then you look for articles that are done by Eater. You look for unbiased sources. So you look for articles done by Eater or TV shows, or some generally interested people. Look through their blogs and see what they think is the best. Obviously, I'm going to look up Andrew Zimmern and Anthony Bourdain, of course. But you can find some hidden gems and not just the what people are being promoted by by those companies when you travel. So it's my go-to.
All right, guys, episode 77. Remember, we got some huge shows that are going to be dropping and coming out in the next 1 to 2 months right now. So
over the next 8 weeks, you're going to get all our shows from New York City.
Some powerful stuff from some other powerful people doing some insightful, incredible things. I mean, each one of these guys is unique, guys and girls, excuse me. And they all have a message to say and a story to tell. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button right now. So you're going to be able to make sure you get all those shows. And if you like these shows that Daniel and I do, leave a review, shoot us an email, Brandon or Daniel at onthebusproductions.com. Let us know what you think about these shows. We love doing it. Let's keep this discussion going about what we talked about today.
And forgot to mention this, but next 3 people who leave us a review are going to get an On the Bus athletic t-shirt. I mean, this thing's like Under Armour. It's form-fitting. It's got mesh along the ridge. It's got a logo on the back, and you can get that for free. All you got to do is leave a review. Send us an email with a screenshot, onthebuspodcast@gmail.com.
Be on the lookout for that. And then a huge thanks to Green Roads World, guys, the largest CBD manufacturer in Florida. They make some great green CBD products, and any which way you can consume this stuff. I know my sister Brittany just got some for her son Jace. He loves it. He takes it every day, and he's seeing some amazing effects from it, from being just a little calmer and cooler. Remember, this is non-psychoactive too, but there's a great way it's going to reduce inflammation, whether that's from his diet or whether that's just from him being an active young kid. CBD is a great thing for everybody to take. So again, use promo code ONTHEBUS for a 15% discount on any and all CBD projects. That's ONTHEBUS, and give yourself and everyone else, like my sister and nephew, the gift of good health today. And that's it, guys. Episode 77.
Bus has taken off.
Oh, don't you still believe me? Yeah, but on my way home, yeah.
This is the movement.